Good Tuesday morning. It's January 3rd. I had a difficult time getting into this thing today. I'm a high-tech dropout, okay? Any kindergarten kid could tell me how to make this stuff work. Anyway, I'm really struck by today. It's January 3rd. It's my cousin Harry's birthday. He would have been 80 years old today. And he died last March, I think was March 3rd. And I feel his loss very, very strongly, even though it's interesting because I haven't lived at home in 64 years, since 1959. And I've only seen Harry, maybe only saw Harry a couple of times a year, but he was a presence in my life, as is the entire family. His sister Camille, the oldest in our family, but also my other cousins from Uncle Julio's side, Chucky and Tommy, Chucky, Jimmy, Tommy, and Maggie, and their children. They're a part of the narrative of my past and my life and my present. And though the elders are gone, my parents, Uncle Harry and Anita and Uncle Julio and Aunt Marguerite, of course my mom and dad, we are the last of the generation, and we are the end of we are the tail end of that narrative. In other words, we are now ourselves passing into history, passing into the past. And I feel that. I feel with a certain depth of grieving that in a sense, it's more than missing, but part of me died when Harry died. A part of the companionship of life. That is the beauty of life itself and the beauty of a family, is that you don't have to be physically close, but you are, in a sense, narratively close. There's no way you can tell the story without telling those who are in the story, those who sat at the table with you. That's the story of the New Testament. You can't tell the story of Christ without the 12 apostles, even the betrayer, you see, Judas, you see, and the women. You can't tell the story because they are ingredient and intrinsic to the story itself. That is the story of life. We are more than isolated individuals. We are a complex narrative of life. We bring with ourselves our past, those who are the populations of our past, the people of our past, whom we have loved, been loved by, maybe even been estranged from. It makes no difference. I'm grateful that in our family there's never been any bad blood. And I mean that. There was always a welcome. You could see it. You could see how we loved to get together. You had to see the cousins get together. We always looked forward to being together. And we'd almost isolate ourselves, the cousins. You had to see it. It was not planned. There was such, I think because we grew up in a very early childhood. Chucky and Jimmy lived upstairs. We were downstairs. Harry and Camille were across the street. So we were playmates as well as cousins. It's a story of life. I think of the apostles that way, James and John. The whole bunch of them were a gang of friends called together by Christ, not because they were perfect, but because they were faithful. He called them to fidelity, to live the life, the adventure of life itself. And that's what you get here. There is a sense in which the first reading in John, he talks about sinfulness. He says, see what love the Father has bestowed on us, that we are called the children of God. That means a lot to me. I owe the order for that, to see myself as a child of God with the other children of God. First my family, but way beyond that, you see. Yet so we are, he says. The reason the world doesn't know us is that it didn't know him. Beloved, we are God's children now. And what we shall be has not yet been revealed. Boy, is that ever true, the adventure of life. You think I told you that yesterday? What? Who would have guessed it in any of our lives? You see, we do not know when it. We do know that when it is revealed, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And I think that when I think of paradise, is the fine revelation of who we are in Christ together. Well, somebody asked me, "What do you look forward to in paradise?" I said, "Being with my family, my friends." Those with whom I have walked this life, who providence gave me. It would be like Christ asking Christ, who do you want in paradise? If he doesn't say his family and his mother and his father and his cousins and the apostles, I'd say, what's the matter with you? They're the narrative. They're the people of the narrative. They're real people of the narrative. That's what paradise is, the eternality of the narrative. And it's a living narrative of persons. It's not a story, an abstraction, not a philosophical proposition or argumentation. It's a living entity. namely the family of God. And we are the family of God into our own family and our family of faith. It's a combination of all the above. I think of my fellow Passionists. Boy, I think about them a lot these days. My classmates, Tom and Mark, and Malcolm and John, who died 10 years ago, 8 and 9 years ago. Yeah, my classmate, Terry, Joe, Jim, Mike. Yeah, we walked this life together. And I haven't been stationed with them in 50 years. But there is intrinsic to my life and intimate to my life and my narrative is my own blood. My classmates are to me my brothers. They really are. And the Passionists who guided my life and really sprung me loose, Flav and Norb and my novice master, Greg Flynn. You can't tell my story without telling their story too. You see? And the hope of immortality is that story doesn't end with death, but it's transformed to be like Christ in glory, with Christ in glory. That what is love, that love never ends, and love is personal. It's not an abstraction, not a philosophical proposition. It's not a platonic form. It is living human beings, angels and humans all together, you see, in a communion. And I think of my father's dinners at Christmas time, a perfect dinner in which we're all together, in which there is no bitterness, no betrayal, only the warmth and love of the home at the table. It's supposed to be what the Eucharist is. If you ever lived in my home, if you were in my home for Christmas, you would understand what Christ wanted out of the Last Supper. He wanted what my Father did, and namely to have a communion of friends together, friends and family together. Never raised voice, laughter, song. Uncle Harry was the leader of that. Friends together. We used to bring our girlfriends. That's the truth. To share at the table. The intimacy of a family in communion with itself. That's the truth. I think that's what paradise is. It's the eternal Christmas dinner. See? It's an adventure in love. An adventure that never ends. You see? Even I think in this sense, when I think of the saints, I think of my family. And often I ask my mother and my father to intercede for me. Don't let me screw this up, Ma. Don't let me mess this up today. See? Stuff like that, because I believe in her intercession, my father's. I believe in my fellow Passionists that are in paradise. Look out for me. Keep me from screwing up, okay? Give me the light I need that I might be wise in the service and the fidelity of my life. When Christ talks about sin, he's not talking about some of that stuff the canon lawyers conned up when we were young. Mortal sins thrown around like cookies. We're talking about infidelity. To what? To the life you were called. The virtue and the life that you were called. The intimacy of love itself. However we were called to be. Me and the clergy and the priest and the religious life, you married, whatever it may be. What mortal sin is a betrayal of that vocation, a radical betrayal, not petty Andy, small potatoes. That was good enough for the canon lawyers and the Pharisees. For Christ, it's fidelity. See, even with Judas betrays. He's a betrayer, not a small-time operator, not clumsy like St. Peter. He's a betrayer, and he didn't have a sufficient faith in Christ to seek redemption and forgiveness, if only he had. See? We are fallible followers of Christ in the way we fallibly love each other, but we can at least try to love each other better. And in failure, ask for forgiveness, first and foremost from each other, and then from God, and then go forward with life.